A very, very happy Sweepsmas to all of you who celebrate. I personally do because I love when the Seattle Mariners get sweeps. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. The Mariners win this one 5-1 today against the Los Angeles Angels. They improved to 34-27 overall. They maintain a 4-game lead on the New York Rangers, the Texas Rangers, and a 7.5-game lead on the Houston Astros in the American League West. And if I didn't mention it, they're a high watermark now, 7 games over 500 on the season. A tremendous, tremendous weekend of baseball for the Seattle Mariners. Before I dive into it, do me a favor. As always, hit that like button. Helps out tremendously. You guys know that. Just gets the video out to more people. Comment your thoughts on the game down below. And if you're new here lurking, don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you all so much. I hit 3,500 subs yesterday. Now we're on the road to 4K. That's kind of the next big journey. I mean, a nice even number always feels good, but 4K is the next big one. So appreciate everybody that subbed. Truly means a lot, as I say every video. My man Mark won the members only contest, the contest for the channel members, I should say. With 6 strikeouts from Luis Castillo. So check the community tabs, man. I'll put my email in there. Just shoot me an email and we'll work out the winning for a contest. Think about becoming a channel member if you haven't. We do live streams with contest giveaways, usually about once a month. So congrats, Mark, on the victory. Not only did you win, you got the number right on the button for Castillo's strikeout total. Great win for the Mariners. I mean, I feel like I've said that a lot, but they take care of business. A little sluggish in the middle of the game with the offense, but it comes alive late. The Mariners starting pitchers do not allow 1 earned run in this series. Absolutely fantastic. We've talked about it. We've talked about it a lot. The schedule's been tough. It's finally starting to open up a little bit. You're starting to get to play some teams that are just not very good. The Angels are one of those clubs, especially without Mike Trout and Rendon, and with Ohtani being on the other side of Los Angeles now. Not a very good team. You play Oakland next, not a very good team. Then you get Kansas City's pretty good, but then you get Chicago, not a very good team. A chance for this team to show that while there were frustrations, in the first 57, 58 games, that the offense was driving us nuts at points. I'm not saying it's completely fixed or anything, but a chance for this team to kind of be like, hey, we held our own versus good teams, and now we're going to take care of the teams underneath us and really, really get on a roll. And they're starting to. This series alone, they outscore the Angels by 10, 14 runs. The run differential goes back in the positive. You're now 7 games over 500. So you're not in that mode where you're kind of teetering on 500 and below. You're there. You've gone over 500. And you come away clearly looking like the better team, too. I don't think they played down to competition. Even Friday, it was a close game. And listen, I'm not taking away the grand slam Joe Adell hit, but maybe get out of that inning and that game looks, a lot better as well. So really, just like I said, tremendous series up and down for the Mariners. Really, really setting the tone here. We are into June. We've played 61 baseball games. There's still a lot left, but, we're 20 games away from the halfway point of this season. We are 20 games away from the halfway point. That's how quickly this goes by. And, in terms of the division and the standings, I will never count Houston out, but they've got to make a move. And I'm not talking like move trade-wise or stuff like that. I'm talking about they've got to make their move. Like they're 7.5 games back. That's substantial. Even Texas's 4 games back is substantial. Those teams are going to have to get hot here. And on top of it, and listen, the Mariners still have to play both teams a lot. They have the tiebreaker over both teams right now. They took 2 out of 3 in Texas, and they've won 5 out of 7 against Houston. So you could even make a case Texas is 5 behind Seattle right now. Because if, let's say the season ended in 4 days, Texas wins 4 in a row, Seattle loses 4 in a row, it's the Mariners that are winning the division. Again, a lot of games left with these teams. Tiebreakers are not all sorted out yet. Although with the Astros, it's probably going to be pretty tough for them to get that tiebreaker back, I will admit. Texas still plenty of games left against them for them to switch that around. I'm just pointing this out to say it's not insignificant. It's not. Because remember last year, our frustration with this Mariners team was that cold start. And even though they finished slow in September as well, we wondered if maybe they played a little better early on, they wouldn't have been in that position. Well, This year, they're off to a much, much better start. And these little things do matter. It does. That they are, and not only does it matter for a standings perspective that, hey, you've got a 4-game lead on the division, which is nice. It also matters for acquiring and making trades. And I know I'm repeating myself. I know I've said all these things a bunch, but again, I do daily post-game recaps. So you're going to hear the same thing repeated for me sometimes. It's just the way it is. You don't have to sell $3 to get $1 right now. If the team was 3 games back in the division, I'd be like, we need to jump on something, a reliever, another outfielder, whatever you think the team needs, a designated hitter, a second baseman that you might think is bad. Well, whatever it is, I'm just throwing things out there. I think you've got to look at making a move, and if it's something that's going to cost you a little bit more than you're willing to do, you've got to pull the trigger. Well, right now the team doesn't have to do that. They need to make moves, and I hope before the trade deadline we see moves to get this team better. But they don't have to jump in there and just do a move for the sake of a move right now. This lead does buy them time. Now, I also want to be clear. That's not me saying, oh, don't have to do anything to just sit around and twiddle our thumbs. I hope they're on the phones. I'm sure they are. But they can sit back and they don't have to be the desperate team. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. They might be calling. Maybe they've called the A's on Austin Adams, and the A's have been like, and again, I'm just using names for the sake of making a point. I'm not saying this is what the A's have said, but we want Luzardo Montez for Austin Adams. I don't think the Mariners would ever do that, but if they're 3 games back, you're more likely to be like, listen, we need the bullpen help. Okay, fine, we'll do it. Again, Montez is a extreme example, but you guys get the point I'm trying to make, hopefully. Mariners don't have to do that right now. They can return the A's call and go, we're 4 games up in the division. We'll wait a little bit. So it just affords you some flexibility with those things and all that. And on top of it, it also, hopefully it forces ownership. I think the front office is willing to make moves, but it's going to force the ownership to get on board with them too, because this team does have a chance to win division. They don't just have a chance to win the division. I will say it again, this team should win the division. If this team does not win the division, it's a major disappointment. I will not be upset if they get a wild card. That'd be great. I want this team in the playoffs. But if they don't win the division, it is a major disappointment. There is no reason the Seattle Mariners should not be AL West champions this year, in my opinion. No, it's not a jinx. I have no control over this baseball team. Nothing I say affects them. It's my personal opinion. I thought they'd win the division coming into the year. And now when I see that Houston is scuffling, they show signs, but then they kind of fall back off. Texas kind of the same way. Yes, I do believe this Mariners team is the best in the division and should be winning it. So we'll see what happens. But it's been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun. This homestand was fantastic. You go, they go 6-1 on this homestand, and they finally get a day off tomorrow. Finally, after 17 games in 17 days, this team gets a day off. And what did they do in that 17-game stretch? Let's see, 1-2 against Baltimore, 2-2 against the Yankees. That's 3-4. 4-6 when you include the National Series, and then 6-1. So 10-7, 17 games, 17 days, 10-7. I sound like a broken record with these things, but if you would have told me that if you would have told me before that first game in Baltimore, Jay, 10-7 over the next 17 days, do you take it? Where do I sign? Absolutely, I'm taking that all day. I'll take 10-7 over the next 17 as well. That would put you at, 44-34? Yeah, I'll take a lot of 10-7 stretches. That'll get you pretty far. And to do it against divisional opponents, really good opponents, Baltimore, New York, Houston, yeah, absolutely. The Washington series, yeah, that was a hiccup. It would have been nice if they won that series, but they didn't. And they've kind of, I think, made up for it a little bit on this homestand. So let's get into this game specifically today. As we always do, let's start with the pitching. Luis Castillo gets the W, 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, no earned, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. Good call, Mark, on the 6 strikeouts, my friend. Listen, I don't think Castillo's command was the best we've seen it. I do think he settled in. I thought the first 3-4 innings, that fastball command just wasn't there. It just wasn't on. He just didn't have it. He had some good fastballs. It just, when he missed, he really missed, it seemed like. There was a lot of non-competitive pitches that were out of the zone, but not ones that would entice a hitter to swing at them. But I thought he really dialed in after that 3rd or 4th inning, and he still throws 7 shutout innings, with giving up 2 hits. That's fantastic. I think our standards are so high for this pitching staff that we look at a start like this and go, meh. And, I was looking up the numbers today during the stream. The Angels offense hasn't been as bad as maybe I've thought it's been. Now, a lot of the numbers are probably being carried by Mike Trout for when he played. So that's going to be a huge blow, but they've got some okay hitters. It's not a good lineup by any means, but 7 shutout innings against anybody deserves praise. I don't care. You know what I mean? So like I said, do I think Castillo had his best command? No, you're not always going to have that. I always say you're going to have to battle through days when you don't have your best stuff. And sometimes that's the time to judge a pitcher. How do you pitch when you don't have your best stuff? Because these are all professional guys. And if they are all on their game, there is not a single player in baseball that can't dominate a start. Even Patrick Corbin, who I've ripped and said is terrible, like if he is truly on his game, he could shut out anybody. He's a major league pitcher, so what are these guys like when they don't quite have their best stuff? Can they battle through and keep you in a game? Luis Castillo just threw 7 shutout innings. And I guess I shouldn't say, I don't think his stuff was bad. I just thought the command of the fastball in the first few innings was a little off. But I thought he settled right back in. Like innings 5 through 7 looked like as dominant as we've seen Luis Castillo all season. So a fantastic outing from Castillo. Not only is it 7 innings of shutout ball, it's contributing to a win. It preserves the bullpen, gives them kind of an extra day off going into tomorrow's day off. And another thing to remember is Castillo pitched 3 starts during this 17-day stretch without a day off. So not that they were working on short rest, but Castillo did not get any benefit of an extra day off. Him and Bryce Miller both, I think, threw 3 or 4 times in this stretch of 17 games because Castillo starting against Baltimore, New York, Houston, and the Angels. 4 starts in 17 days without a day off. So I'm going to forgive the fastball command not being there 100%, and I am absolutely celebrating 7 beautiful shutout innings. Ryan Stanek, a shutout 8th inning with 2 strikeouts. I cannot stress how big it is for Ryan Stanek to be pitching like he has his last few outings. Listen, and again, repeating myself, but I mean, we're talking about the same team, the same players every day, so I guess how can I not repeat myself a little bit? Ryan Stanek earlier in the year was fine. I've said it with all these guys. I've talked about adding a bullpen piece. It's not really an indictment on the current guys. I think the bullpen in general is good. I think you got good guys down there. I just think you have everybody that's being asked to do maybe a bit more than they were expected coming into the year. Another high leverage arm wouldn't hurt. Ryan Stanek's a perfect example. He had been fine all season. Like nothing wrong with it. Perfectly capable of getting outs. But his last few times out, and honestly, even before that Nationals game where he gave the home run to Abrams, he looks like an actual weapon reliever. Not just, Stanek's good. He can get some outs, in the pile. He looks like a guy now that is capable of being that 8th inning guy. He has been absolutely lights out his last few appearances. The fastball command dialed in. I don't know if he threw a lot of good splitters today. He hung one to Rengifo, and that didn't really hang it, to be honest. It just didn't quite, I think, have as sharp a break as he was looking for, or maybe it just started 2 up in the zone, and Rengifo lined a base hit off of it. But man, the splitter, the fastball command, and the velocity, I mean, he's touching 100, it looks fantastic. So to have Ryan Stanek pitching like this, not like what did I talk about early in the video? I'm not quizzing you guys. I'm just going back to it. And that was my segue. Buying yourself time, right? And a lead in the division does that. Ryan Stanek pitching like this buys you a little time for adding a reliever. Mariners probably sit back and go, listen, again, we're not going to pay $2 for $1 or $2.50 for $1.50. Ryan Stanek looks better. Saucedo's back. Yes, Myers on the IL. That stings. I don't know about Gregory Santos. I mean, I'm hoping July, but it just doesn't seem like progress is getting made. It's like little by little progress where it's like, oh, he's doing this now. And it's like, okay, when's a rehab assignment starting? You're kind of in that mode. But man, if you could get Santos back and Stanek dialed in, and maybe the time off, you get Spire back by the All-Star break, you could really dial in this bullpen. And maybe I'm being a little too optimistic about this. There's a chance Santos doesn't pitch. You never know. Spire's injury could end up being worse. So it could go the other way as well. But man, if you could get that dialed in and get Spire back to where he was, Santos back, and Stanek is pitching like this, maybe you don't need to make a move. Maybe you don't. We'll see. It really depends on Santos and when and if he is going to actually come back. Mike Baumann pitches the 9th inning, gives up a run, but it was unearned. The error by J.P. Crawford. He did walk. I forgot who he walked in the ninth inning. It's getting driving me nuts now. I got to pull it up. Top of the ninth. Calhoun grounded out, walked Kevin Pillar. O'Hoppe reaches on the air. Then he strikes out Adele. Neto gets the single, and Dice pops up. So, walking Pillar in a 5-0 game kind of stinks. Neto takes a pitch, lines up the middle. It happens. I thought Bauman was fine. It was a 5-0 game. If that error doesn't happen, there's no worries a little bit in the ninth inning. I guess maybe somewhat frustrating that Munoz kind of had to get up and down a little bit. That was probably slightly annoying for Scott and the coaching staff, but not really Bauman's fault. One of that falls on JP. And then the other two things, just, walking ahead happens. So I thought Bauman was fine. Maybe not his best outing. But again, I said yesterday, it's hard to judge guys in a 9-0 game. It's hard to judge them in a 5-0 game as well, because it's such a low leverage outing that you're not necessarily focused on how good's my stuff. Can I get these outs without giving up walks and stuff like that? He did give up the one walk, but yeah, Bauman was fine. Let's move into the offense. Nice series for the offense. It didn't come alive until today, until the 8th inning. But overall, the Mariners score 19 runs in this series against the Angels, and a really impressive series. And listen, I don't expect every game to be dominant offense. It's not even what we need. I mean, we need it. I would absolutely take that. But with this pitching staff, how good it is, you just need this offense to be maybe slightly above league average. And they had a great game yesterday, put up 9 runs, had insurance runs. Friday was really good. Again, they scored 3 runs early, then they add on more runs later. Yeah, the offense didn't get going until a little bit later today, but they still find a way to put 5 runs on the board in this one. And, like I said, I don't expect, 10 runs every game, but just a little more consistency. And we had that in this game, or excuse me, in this series, I should say. Yeah, again, I would have rather had the 5 runs earlier in the game, but 5 runs is 5 runs. I'm not a stickler, necessarily on where you score the runs, what inning. As long as they're happening, they're happening. And the fact that 5 runs was the lowest total for the Mariners in this series is really encouraging. I talked about the Houston series where I said, while frustrating, they didn't get a lot of runs. You faced Framber Valdez, Justin Verlander. Those guys are good. I mean, Verlander's not what he was, but of all the pitchers in baseball, I'm not going to be like, how do you get shut down by Verlander? It happens. Hunter Brown, Arrighetti threw the ball well. Should have scored more runs off them, 100%, no doubt. But they threw the ball well. The Angels series, they did a good job against pitchers that just are not that great. Soriano's fine, gets a lot of ground balls, that can mask a lot of inefficiencies and throws the ball hard. But overall, he's kind of all right. Mariners hit him. Mariners got to Reed Detmers, who's struggling this year. Griffin Canning shut down the Mariners today. Would have been nice to do a little bit more. Griffin Canning, if you look at the Savant page, not very good. Although his last few outings, he's pitched much better. He's been much more consistent for the Angels. But they didn't get to Canning. I thought they were just having trouble picking up that change-up fastball combination from him. But you know what? They got into the bullpen, and they hit the bullpen. So they found a way. This offense is, even if it's really good, is probably going to have some streakiness in it. It's just the way the team is built. You're going to see some games where they score 12, 13 runs, then they're going to score 2 or 3. It's just kind of the way I think they're built a little bit. But in general, or I should say overall, I think they can be much better than they've been, and they show nice improvement this series. Do I think it's Brant Brown? My video title yesterday was kind of tongue-in-cheek. I have no idea. Probably not. I don't think if one coach truly had that much impact, where they were terrible and now they're good, and again, I'm saying if that's the case, Brant Brown should never have a job in baseball ever again. More than likely, it's the Angels just aren't that good, but that's part of baseball. That's why I said yesterday, that's when you can get your numbers against teams that just aren't as good as the good teams. I don't expect the Mariners to put up a ton of runs against the Atlanta Braves in that series, and they found a way to win 2 out of 3. But listen, you're facing Max Fried and you're facing Chris Sale. You're probably not going to get a ton of runs there. It's just what it is. Houston's guys are struggling, but they're still good arms. So, maybe now the schedule lightens up. Now, I will say this. They're actually facing some pretty good pitchers here coming up. Oakland's 3 are not great, but they're not awful. The White Sox, when you play them, you're probably going to face Crochet and Fedde, who's actually a guy I talked about for the Mariners maybe to sign this offseason. He's been pretty good. The Royals, you're going to get Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. So you are going to face some decent pitching. The Mariners offense is going to have to keep it rolling. but certainly not to the competition they've been playing, again, outside of maybe Kansas City, to the competition they've been playing earlier in the year. Let's break down the offense. 4 walks, only 7 strikeouts, 5 hits, 5 runs. The Mariners did not have a double-digit strikeout game in this series, and 3 of their strikeouts came against the bullpen in that 8th inning. They only had 4 going into the 8th inning. They struck out for all 3 outs in the 8th, but they put up 4 runs that inning and worked 3 walks. So I'll trade those strikeouts in that inning for the runs and the walk totals. JP, tough game, 0 for 4. Did have a line drive, 108 off the bat that was caught by Paris at second base. Boy, what was going on with Paris? He made a couple really odd throws. There was one that he threw away on the Canzone ground out, and I forgot who hit I think it was Luke Raley, his first at bat. He almost spiked one in the ground when he had Raley out by a mile. It's just really weird. I didn't see if he got any more defensive chances later in the game, but, just a little bit of the yips for him. Josh Rojas, 1 for 3 with a double in the first inning and a walk. The walk came against a lefty. I was a little surprised Dylan Moore didn't take that at bat. But, I think Demo just needed a day off, and I think that was their goal, is to just give Dylan Moore the whole day off. Had a tough homestand. He's played a lot. Maybe if that game was tied in that instance and runners were on, maybe you go to Dylan Moore there. But in that instance, I think it was fine giving Rojas the at-bat. I think that was against Matt Moore, and he ends up working the walk. Julio was 0 for 3 with the walk in that 8th inning. Cal 1 for 4. That base hit was an infield hit. Ty was 0 for 4, did reach on the air in the 8th inning, which allowed the game to open up. How about Big Thunder Luke Raley again? 1 for 2, 2 RBIs, home run, and 2 hit by pitches. His season OPS up to 756, on base 3 times today, showing off his speed rounding the bases. And glad when he got hit on the pitch for the RBI, it was more in the thigh area, so no injuries to worry about there. Do want to talk a little bit about that play in the 8th inning that Luke Raley looked very frustrated with Logan O'Hoppe. So if you didn't see it, Mitch Garver had the bases clearing double. Talk about Garver in a second. That made the game 5-0. Luke Raley was rounding third. He was this close to home plate. And O'Hoppe did kind of little deke. Like he went out in front of the plate like he was going to get the ball. Julio was giving Raley the hold, like the you're good sign. Like you don't have to slide. But Raley saw O'Hoppe do the deke, kind of went into a slide there and got visibly frustrated with O'Hoppe, kind of barked at him a little bit for that. So I did want to give my take on it. I think Luke Raley's correct. I think that's a little bush league from O'Hoppe. Not the end of the world. I don't think, should be fined or anything like that. I'm not against players deking players. On a fly ball, a guy pretends like he's going to catch it because you're trying to hold a runner at second base from scoring. No problem with that because there is a clear outcome that can be changed by the deke. O'Hoppe's wasn't going to change anything. Raley was 2 feet from home. So it's not like if Raley thought he was going to get the ball, he was going to run back to third base or something like that. If there was a way for O'Hoppe to deke him while he was standing at third and Raley was hesitant, then fine, that's fair game. Raley was this close to home plate. I mean, probably not that close, but 2 feet away from home plate. What was the purpose? What was it going to solve? He was going to score. The ball wasn't anywhere close. The only thing that could come from that is an injury to Raley or an injury to O'Hoppe. Raley, I know you can't bulldoze the catcher anymore, but, what if he did kind of hit him out of the way or something because he's like, oh, crap, the ball. Is crap a cuss word? I don't know. The ball's coming, so just a natural instinct. Could have gotten a couple guys hurt. And again, there was no changing of the outcome. I'm not against a deke on a player. That's sports, right? We've seen receivers deke DBs and quarterbacks, pump fake. But there's a possible result that can be changed. An outfielder, like I said, I got it. Then it bounces. Then he throws a guy out. There's a possible change of the outcome. What was that deke going to do? The ball wasn't anywhere near O'Hoppe. So the only thing that's going to happen is an injury in that instance. Now, do I think it's the end of the world? No. Do I think we need, 500 videos breaking it down? No, it happens. But I get Raley's frustration there, and I think he did have a right to be upset with O'Hoppe for that. Mitch Garver, 2 for 4 with the 3-run double. So happy for Mitch Garver. Like, listen, I want you guys to know, anytime I'm frustrated with a player, I've talked about Ty, and Ty's come out of it. A little bit of a tough last couple games, but overall has been playing much better. Mitch Haniger, Mitch Garver, Polanco, Trent Thornton, whoever it may be. I am rooting for every single one of these guys. These are Mariners. They're on my team. I absolutely want them to do well. And I've said in videos, when Ty was scuffling, Ty would get a hit. I'd be like, you know what? Good to see. That is good to see. Maybe that's something that gets him going. Talked about with Mitch Haniger, who's actually been swinging the bat better recently. Mitch Garver gets the infield hit first at bat. Listen, hit hard, no. But I was on the members room. I was like, give him a hit for that. Give Garver a hit. He needs that. Gets the hit on it. And then the bases clearing double down the line. Nobody needed that more than Mitch Garver. Is that going to wake him up and get him going this year? I have no idea. But it's certainly not going to hurt. Not only did it help the Mariners put a game away that they needed to win, but just for his own confidence, I really, really hope that sparks something in Mitch Garver. Again, got a day off tomorrow. Garver gets to go home. The food's going to taste a little better. The water's going to taste a little cleaner. Maybe that gets him going now for this next road trip. Maybe that's something that sparks something for Garver. You never know. Am I putting money on it? No. But man, it would be nice. And I'm happy for him, because he's just been scuffling. The at-bat before was brutal. And I was going to come on here and start talking, they're not going to eat the cost of the money for Garver or anything, but do you need to stick him on the DL or the IL for a couple weeks just to be like, hey, you need a couple weeks off. We can make up some hamstring injury or something, one of those, and he goes on the IL for a little bit. Is that something they needed to be done? I was going to start talking about it. Now, one at-bat does not change an entire season, but man, that leaves a good taste for Mitch Garver going into that road trip. So fantastic to see. And listen, the infield hit, is it, sustainable? No, but my gosh, anything that can improve Mitch Garver's numbers, I will 100% take. Canzone was 0 for 2, did work 2 walks, and Ryan Bliss was 0 for 4. Great series sweep. I mean, again, schedule opening up a little bit for this team. And I do think, and I've been hard on them at times. I've been, there's ups and downs. Every season's going to have it. And I'm not better than anybody. I go through it too. There's moments where I'm like, I can't envision this team winning a World Series of division. Then I look at games like today, and I know it's the Angels and everything, but I look at today and I look at the rest of the teams in the AL West. I'm like, this is the best team. This is. I'm sorry, sue me. I think this is the best team in the division. And now they're playing some pretty good ball and just had a great homestand. There's a lot of baseball left. But this team doesn't even have some of its guys playing even up to their career averages. I mean, we've got to think Julio Rodriguez is really going to get locked in at some point. And he's been better of late, but he's still running a 655 OPS. I can't imagine Julio ending the year with an OPS under 750. Mitch Garver is not this poor of a hitter. Jorge Polanco, not this poor. He's going to come back. Maybe he gets going. Maybe you get Luis Urias back in there and he can help contribute a little bit. Luke Raley's contributing. Mitch Haniger getting some more days off now. If you actually look in the last few weeks, his bat's been better. Ty France heated up. I do think the sky's the limit, and you just need a couple of these guys. And we're not asking for like, oh, if this prospect does this, and this one does this, and these guys do this, and this turns into superstars, team set. No, we're just talking about guys playing in the back of the baseball cards. And I get, like, listen, we've played 61, 62 games, whatever it is. They haven't done it so far. I'm not necessarily holding my breath, but man, imagine if you got that. Imagine where this team could be. They're already 7 games over 500. And truthfully, I don't even think the pitching the last few weeks has pitched as well as we know it can. I look at this team. They're 7 games over 500, and I don't think they've played their best baseball. I do not think they've hit their peak yet. And that's a good thing. Because we talked about that last year, but last year they were, 28-31, or I don't know exactly where they were, but they were kind of hovering in that 500-ish mode or a little bit under. Now they're 7 games up, and I don't think they've hit their peak. I think the starting pitching has had peak moments. They had that stretch of 23 straight games with 1 run or 2 earned runs or less. So they have hit their stride. But even recently, I don't think we've seen the best of all these guys. Maybe Brian Wu we have, and Bryce Miller a little bit, but I think Kirby, Castillo, and Gilbert have a little bit more. They have a little bit more. And this offense we know has more. And that's a scary thought, because in a good scary for everybody else, not for us. Because, man, if this team can get rolling, I think it's going to be a really fun season. I really do. I cannot wait. This is one of those times I'm like, I'm mad tomorrow's an off day. Like, I get it. They need it. But I want Mariners baseball tomorrow. Great sweep. Fantastic. See, starting pitching dialed in this. Here, you know what's funny? I just sat there and said, I don't think the starting pitching's been dialed in. They didn't allow an earned run this series. What am I talking about? I don't know. I think you guys know what I mean, though, right? Like, I don't think Logan has been as dialed in his last few starts. Kirby's been a little up and down. Castillo's been fine facing some tough opponents. Wu and Miller, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I think you get where I'm coming from with that. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Me and Mariner Sir will be back tomorrow for our weekly show, so check that out. Let's keep it going. Get a good day off. Go to Oakland and keep this rolling. 7 games over 500, 4-game lead in the AL West. Let's go. Have a great night, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, and go Mariners. Peace.